My kids are awesome, and they're a reminder of the miracle that happens when life is chosen. My first hero is absolutely my birth mom. My birth mom who chose to go through 9 months of a traumatic pregnancy. And at that time, I just imagined in my mind, because I know very little about my birth mom. I never met her. I did petition the court in Pennsylvania, in Cumberland County, for them to unseal my adoption records, because you have to petition the judge in order to unseal records in my particular case. And so they did, and they conducted a search for months trying to find my biological mother. And at that time when I was born, and I have to reveal my age, but it was a little while ago. I'm a little older than 20, over 30. I'm not gonna keep going, but anyway, they could not locate the individual, or the individual that they did contact never responded. So I've not yet, to this point, met my biological mother. But I just try to imagine what went through her mind. I am living proof of what happens when we embrace courage. Because it's incredibly courageous to go through 9 months of pregnancy when everybody else, especially the abortion industry, just says someone like me should have been aborted. And yet I look at the reverberations of a singular decision. And that's what's amazing in life. No matter what it is, we think our singular decision, what we do right now, impacts the right now. But it can impact generation after generation after generation. And the generation that I wake up with every day, my children, who are possible only because of my birth mom's courageous decision. So my wife and I, I'm just gonna give you just a brief background on the Radiance Foundation. There are 3 things that we do through the Radiance Foundation. We launch public creative ad campaigns dealing with the issue of abortion. We travel around the world and deliver multimedia presentations on a myriad of social issues. And we also have our community outreaches like our sallyslambs.org that my wife has launched, because we know what single moms go through and what expectant parents who weren't expecting to be pregnant, weren't expecting to go through all that, go through, because my wife was a single mom for a year. And thankfully today I am Haley Radiance's daddy. I've been her daddy since she was 1, but I officially adopted her a few years ago, along with my youngest son, Justice. So we have 2 adopted children, 2 biological children, 3 who were completely unplanned out of the 4, and doesn't make any difference because unplanned children get loved just as much as the planned children. I mean, we grew up singing the song. You know the song. My voice is completely shot, so forgive this, but the song goes like something like this: Jesus loves the little children, all the planned children of the world. Right? Red, brown, yellow, black, and white, they're all precious in His sight. Jesus loves all the planned children of the world. Right? Did we all sing that growing up? Oh, we're planned children. Psalm 139 says, "You created my innermost being, you knit me together in my mother's womb. I am fearfully and wonderfully made." There's not an asterisk there that says, "Oh, because you were planned." And though the circumstances behind my birth and thousands of others in this country may be horrific, just like Rebecca said, beauty can rise from those ashes. And I want to talk to you about how triumph can rise from tragedy. And it's hard to imagine that. But when we're focused on one thing, this is our Sally's Lambs outreach, sallyslambs.org, and we're focused on this: life is purpose. If our lens through which we see the world is this, we see humanity and the things that happen to us completely different. And so I offer a different perspective. It's amazing, mainstream media only gives you one perspective, and it's always abortion, abortion, abortion. And just in case you didn't hear us, abortion. And that's what they throw, because it's the natural follow-up, of course, to rape. And what I find tragic is I travel around the country, there are so many amazing stories. And I'll tell you, my favorite part about speaking is when I'm done speaking. It really is. It's hearing stories of people afterward. And there are often times when I hear stories from post-abortive women and men and rape survivors, those who have both chosen to go through their pregnancy and those who have chosen abortion. And there's one instance that I will never forget, because I'm the kind of guy, I will just cry, I ain't lying. I will cry, and I will ugly cry. And there are so many amazing times. I wish there were a video to capture these stories, which would be kind of awkward to have someone there videoing it. But I want to remember these things. I was speaking at CareNet's national conference. This is 2 years ago. And at the end, I spoke right before Dr. Bruce Wilkinson spoke he was a keynote speaker, and I spoke for 15 minutes before. Then I sang the song called Meant to Be, which you'll hear just a snippet of it later on. And it's a song that I wrote to my biological mother, just thanking her. Of course, words are just insufficient to express gratitude to someone who went through the trauma that my biological mother went through. But I sang the song, and afterward, there's just a line of people. I mean, it was ridiculous. And the first woman who came up and hugged me like crazy. I mean, just, those kind of hugs where you just hold on, you're not letting go. And then I could feel her trembling, and then, of course, inevitably, it just caused me to tremble, and I'm crying. And it felt like it was a long time. It was probably maybe 10, 15 seconds. And she let go, and she said, when you sang that song, it was the first time in my life that I felt healing. She said, I am 56 years old. I had an abortion 30 years ago, and I've never forgotten it. But your song brought healing to me for the first time. And I'm crying, and the women down the line are crying. And I love that. We have incredible stories that we need to share. What we have, the advantage that pro-lifers have, not only do we have statistics on our side, we have biology on our side, we have history on our side, we have the emotional and the evidential. That is the strength of our position. And I'm hoping through what we do through the Radiance Foundation is we encourage people to use their stories to share why the myth that abortion is the natural solution to rape, why that is a myth that needs to be shattered. In fact, the abortion industry is predicated on this particular lie: unintended equals unwanted equals unloved. Well, let me show you a bunch of unloved people. This would be my family. So this is a Bomberger family, 6 brothers, 6 sisters. I have 30 nieces and nephews. There are 4 great-grandchildren in our family. And it's amazing because it all started with one little girl's passion. And this little girl was my mom. And this goes to show you, women, I'm not pandering, I'm not a politician, so I'm just saying women are the most resilient beings on earth. Can I get an amen? Amen. Sorry, guys. We're awesome too, just not quite as awesome. It's the truth. I've not ever had a baby, but I had an appendectomy, and I was told that's about 100th of the pain that a woman goes through to have. I'm just saying, and I was out for like 2 weeks. It was ridiculous. But I look at the incredible strength of my mom. At the age of 5, she grew up in an abusive home. Her father was an alcoholic. Her mother loved her like crazy and did everything she could to provide for her. Her parents were separating. And so temporarily, she was placed in an orphanage, a children's home. And in this children's home, this is what's amazing. When we talk about don't let anyone despise you because of your youth. Well, even when you're 5 years old, because you don't know how much of someone's future you're going to impact. She had no idea at 5 years of age how God would radically transform her life. She tells the story. She was in Christ's Home in Paradise. That was the name of the children's home. And there was a little girl who had physical disabilities who no one ever came to visit. Now, her parents, although they were separating, would come visit her. My mom's name is Andrea. So they would visit Andrea separately, but no one ever visited this little girl. And it broke my mom's heart so much. A little 5-year-old who knew that this little girl needed her mommy and needed her daddy. And so it was at that point that she gave, my mom remembers giving her life to the Lord. And in that prayer, she just remembers a very simple thing: God, help me be a mommy to those who don't have one. And as you can see, she and my dad followed through on that. Started with 3 homemade folk, and they had 3 first, and then they adopted me. I was the first one. And they kept going. We have white, black, white and black, Native American, Vietnamese, domestic adoption, foster care adoption. Just the whole newborn adoption, the whole gamut. And 2 parents who didn't know what the heck they were getting into, but they knew that they were called by God to love children who the world said were unwanted. They shattered the myth of the unwanted. So here's the story. It's called Andrea's story. It's amazing because every Every story that we have has to have a beginning, and so this is where the Bomberger family story began. It's amazing, in 2014 we talk about adoption, how foreign a concept it is still to Christians. There is no salvation without adoption. I'm talking, of course, in the spiritual sense. Adoption should be first nature to us. And so when I talk about adoption, all the things that it unleashes hope, it unleashes purpose, love, of course, and justice. We don't often think of adoption as a justice issue, and it is. And we talk about justice and rape. What is the natural follow-up to rape? I think too often, sometimes in the pro-life movement, there can be too much of a singular focus just on the child at times. But what I see more often than not is that there's a focus on all three lives. There's a focus on the unborn child, the mother, and the father. And when it comes to a rape victim, to a woman who has been so horrifically violated, we have to remember that she needs healing. She needs wholeness. And so what abortion does often, and I wrote an article about this and how the stories that I hear from rape survivors is very different than the one you hear in mainstream media, because they don't allow this perspective for those women who've chosen life. Abortion is like a second rape. The woman is violated. Part of her dies emotionally, physically, spiritually. Human life is unjustly harmed. And just like in the horrific act of rape, she's then abandoned again. An abortionist is not her personal physician, has no vested interest in her life. And yet this is what we throw at a woman who has experienced the horrible violence of rape. And so I also want to encourage, there are a lot of efforts to reach out to those who have been raped, to offer the counseling, the help that they need, and that's important. And I'm not here to say what she should do. I'm here to say that there is another side of the story that so many people don't hear. That even pro-lifers who say, I'm pro-life, well, what about these cases? You know, when you look at social issues, and you look at it, if you looked at it as a shape, the fringe issues, which are the issues around the outer edge, are the things that give shape to things. And if we aren't willing to look at what is shaping this issue of abortion and scaring us away from embracing life, even in these, I call them the heart cases, because no matter how much data you throw at people, it is a heart issue. And sometimes you need to perform a little heart surgery. And that's what happens. We talk about, being the 1%. That's who I am. I'm the 1% that is used all the time to justify 100% of abortions. We see it in political elections especially. In the state of Virginia, Planned Parenthood Action ran an ad that talked about the number of women who have been raped, and how if a certain politician didn't get in office, that those numbers would skyrocket. And then instead of using the actual national figure from the FBI, which is about 89,000, still, I'm not trivializing, but 89,000 reported cases, they claim that there are over 300,000 reported cases of rape. Well, they're not, and there's no basis in it. So not only are they using, once again, rape to exploit the issue of abortion, they just make up a number. And this is what happens all the time. So when I talk about being the 1%, I want to give you just a clearer picture as to why I look at circumstances that lead to conception None of those circumstances change the humanity of the child. Those circumstances are horrific, can be horrific and violent, and we want to be sensitive to those who experience that, but it still does not change the humanity of the child. It certainly doesn't change the humanity of that woman. And even the rapist, who so few ever talk about punishing, even the humanity of that rapist who needs healing and wholeness as well. We often don't think along those lines, but this is the reason why I'm so passionate about this and why I'll talk further about this issue.
I know I was meant to be. This life was meant for me. Though you went through so much pain, all your tears, they were not in vain. Although you could not see what God had planned for me. God meant for me to be.
When I talk about a singular decision being made and the reverberations are the sounds of my children. When I wake up every day and I hear their voices and I see their cute, I'm a little biased, but they're really cute little faces. I'm reminded of the incredible courage of my birth mom and how her decision allowed my life and the things, being on Oprah with a family, that was an adoptive family, and they're the Bowman family, adoptive family with 11 children. They adopted 7 kids all at the same time. A white family adopted a group of 7 black siblings. Phenomenally talented. I describe them as the Jackson 5 meets the Partridge Family. We went on Good Morning America, Showtime at the Apollo, Oprah, and it was the show, and Oprah screamed out loud, "Jesus lives," when she watched their story. Of course, one day she'll actually embrace that. But it's incredible, the things that get unleashed, the beautiful possibility that gets unleashed, the purpose that gets unleashed. And so I wanted to ask you, because when we talk about rape, sometimes, as researchers, my wife and I, with the Radiance Foundation, want to put things into context. So let me ask you, how many pregnancies result from rape? Does anybody know the number each year? Because it's used all the time. How many? No? Good guess. Oh, I'm sorry, U.S. In the U.S., how many, yes, sorry, talk about clarified context. Yes, within the United States, how many pregnancies occur from rape each year in the U.S.? No, that's a lot. There's, 500. You say 500? When it's used all the time as the reason why we have to have abortion, there should be a lot, not quite that many, but back here? Well, I'm looking for an actual number. Okay, it's 32,101. There are 32,000 pregnancies that result from rape. Out of that 32,000, 50% of women choose to abort. But here's the astounding numbers. 40% actually choose life. 32.2% choose to go through the pregnancy and to parent the child. And you wouldn't think that this would be the case. And 5.9% make a loving plan of adoption, which is far higher than the percentage normally. Less than 2% of women who face unplanned pregnancies choose adoption. So almost 40% choose life. Aren't those stories worthy of listening to? Yep. Why is that?
And so when you talk about 32,101 pregnancies out of 6.4 million pregnancies in the United States each year. And yet there's a study, that the numbers I'm giving you is from a 1996 study. In that same study, they say rape-related pregnancies are the major cause of unwanted pregnancies. Well, 32,000 out of 6.4 million pregnancies is hardly a major cause of unwanted pregnancies. Even if you take the percentage of unwanted pregnancies, which would be 49% are unintended pregnancies every year in the United States, at least when this study was done. Okay, so 49%, that leaves you about 2.6 million pregnancies that are unintended. So rape-related pregnancies amount to about 1.1% of all those pregnancies. Yet this study says that they are the major cause of unwanted pregnancies. So, and this is in an academic medical journal as well, so you can't believe everything they put in there. So just putting those things into context. But here, I want to talk about the child, since I was one born as a result of rape. And there are others. In fact, some famous people you may know. Let's see here. Frederick Douglass. Anybody ever hear of the historical figure Frederick Douglass? Famous abolitionist, former slave, had to start his own paper because, surprise, mainstream media wasn't telling the truth about slavery. Mainstream media doesn't ever change. So he had to start the North Star in Rochester, New York. And his words were that you could not be silent about this injustice. And he said the way that you approach injustice is to do one thing and do it over and over again. Do you know what that word is? Agitate, agitate, agitate. Say it with me. Agitate, agitate, agitate. Don't look at your spouse. What you doing? Just saying. So when we talk about the child, I want to talk about some language, some vernacular. These are terms that I hate. Rapist baby, rape baby, rapist child, and even pro-lifers who use the last one often, product of rape. And I know it's not intentional, but sometimes it can be quite dehumanizing. I'm not a product of rape. I'm not some packaged good that you sell. And so I think we need to do more to elevate the humanity of the child. You can say conceived in rape, born as a result of rape, but try to avoid those things that dehumanize the child and the situation. In fact, I wrote an article on lifenews.com. I write for lifenews.com, christianpost.com, and lifesitenews.com. And my article here, Abortion and the Heart Cases, I Am Not the Rapist Child. And in that, I have this social media meme that you can get all these from the radiancefoundation.org. But it says, President Obama is not called the bigamist child. His father was married concurrently to 2 different women. I really can't read this from here. Can I take this off? Apparently I can't. It's attached. So it says, music artist David Meese is not called the alcoholic's child. Dr. Jessica Gosnell, who's the daughter of Kermit Gosnell, the convicted abortionist, is not called the murderer's child. Actress Morgan Polanski is not called the pedophile's child. Her father, famously, Roman Polanski, who drugged and raped a 13-year-old. Yet abortion activists call me the rapist child. It says children shouldn't be punished for the crimes of the father. And so when we look at the issue of rape and look at the possibility that still exists, not just for the child, the beautiful possibility that is in that child, but in that mother as well. And we don't often think of how her life and her possibilities short-circuited when abortion is just thrown at her as the violent solution to rape. And I mentioned Frederick Douglass here. I just want to, I don't know if I have the, yeah, here's the actual quote. I just wanted to go back to this. This was an event this past summer with Live Action. Anybody ever hear of Lila Rose? Yes, love the work of Lila Rose and Live Action. They do amazing work. But we had an event right outside of ABC Studios, news studios in DC, talking about the censorship of mainstream media. And they sent down a cameraman, I guess, just to appease, but they didn't actually report on the event of several hundred people right outside their studios protesting media's censorship of abortion. But Frederick Douglass says, and I love this quote, I still see before me a life of toil and trials. And I probably can't read this. Can this not be disconnected? Oh, we're recording, that's why. But you can read it with me. Can you read that? But justice must be done. The truth must be told. I will not be silent. Oh my gosh. And that young teenager who spoke at lunch, and I think she's in here, What's your name again? Anna, awesome job. Hand clap for her. Open your mouth. When you said that in the proverb, that's exactly what we need to do and too often fail to do out of fear. But we forget that we deprive somebody the opportunity to be set free when we choose to be silent. And so that's why I love the historical figure of Frederick Douglass. He reshaped the conscience of President Abraham Lincoln. And oh, by the way, he was also born as a result of rape. So here we have some of the social media memes that we create. Pro-choice activism has a certain disorder, I call it multiple personality disorder, where they will say one thing and then say something completely opposite or do something opposite. And you can get some of those cards out there. So this is pro-choice multiple personality number 3726. Every rape is legitimate. If you remember the last election, how, who was the politician? Now I'm completely blanking. Atkins? Who talked about, talked about legitimate rape. And he was just shredded. Well, here's the thing. Norma McCorvey, who is the Roe in Roe v. Wade, falsely claimed that she was raped. And so it wasn't a legitimate rape. But anyway, every rape is legitimate. And then there's the abortionist that says rape, we illegitimately don't report those. This is the thing. Planned Parenthood protects the sexual predators. It protects those who do the harm. In fact, we have another meme that says, we will take away your pregnancy, but not your sexual abuse. Theabortionindustry.biz. That's what they do. They protect them because why would they cut down on their revenue stream? It's exactly what they do. And then you have Hollywood types like Whoopi Goldberg of The View, who said of Roman Polanski, what he did wasn't rape. Oh, okay, I get it. So then it's only rape when? You drug and you rape a 13-year-old, that's not rape? So Hollywood has an interesting way of defining rape. And then you've got Planned Parenthood there with their new little logo, their little icon. How do they deal with the issue of rape, other than exploiting it all the time? So if you're a victim of that, you would think you'd be able to go to their website and there would be abundant resources to seek help other than abortion. No resources. In fact, on their main site, not even mentioned. There is not a single resource to help victims of sexual assault and abuse on Planned Parenthood's website. It's amazing. And then they've got this. Now their new slogan is care no matter what, but we know it's really scare no matter what. So they've got these things, for instance, these are another meme that you can download at our toomanyaborted.com site. And I love this because Planned Parenthood always talks about how this issue is not a religious issue, although they have their subsidiary arm called Clergy for Choice. And their Clergy for Choice have what's called 40 days of prayer. They felt like they had to outdo 40 days for life. So day number 25, this is their prayer. Today we pray for women who have been made afraid of their own power by their religion. May they learn to reject fear and live bravely. Yeah. This is what Planned Parenthood does. It scares people all the time, scares them with rape, scares them with how adoption, in fact, in the same meme, talks about how adoption is far worse than choosing abortion, that the psychological damage to a woman is far worse. So that's what Planned Parenthood does, scare no matter what. But here's the reality. So what abortion industry tells women is that you're not strong enough, you cannot overcome. And what my experience is, growing up with an incredibly strong mom, and I had 6 sisters, every one of them were strong, women are so much stronger than these situations. And what abortion says, you cannot overcome. So here's abortion. And resorting to the ultimate act of violence, you then elevate yourself. And that's what they throw at women. That equality is only achieved by causing the death of another human being. Yeah, social justice. My thing about social justice is, and we're getting ready to launch a new effort. It's called socio-justice, kind of a take on it. Tired of hearing people talk about it all the time. Do it. Step up and do it. And so I want to talk about this, because when you talk about rape, and You know, Rebecca Berg talked about her son and the things that she sees in her son and the beauty that she sees in her son. There's beautiful possibility in every single human life. It is so easy to write off. So easy to write off others, especially when we keep something in the abstract. But when you place women like Rebecca Berg in front of people like Rebecca Kiesling, Pam Stencil. In fact, growing up all my life, I never knew anybody else was born as a result of rape. Never. In fact, I didn't even know until I was 13. You want to talk about crazy teenage years. I mean, as if teenage years aren't already tumultuous. Hey, let's rewrite your entire narrative. My mom had thought that she explained to me how I came to be, and she thought I understood, but I apparently didn't understand what rape was. And so in a conversation when I was 13, what? My mom didn't just run away with somebody that she loved and they were just too young? What? Had I not been loved like crazy by Henry and Andrea Bomberger and my 12 crazy siblings, I would have fallen apart. But instead, 2 weeks later, I did a persuasion speech in 8th grade, and it was my first speech on abortion. In a public school, back when we didn't have computers and internet and all that stuff. I had the brochures, I had the AV, the trifold thing going on. And I was passionate about this issue, and I remember some of my female friends in class, I just remember them crying. When God gives you a story, don't be afraid to share it. One of the first times publicly that I shared how I was born was in a commissioning service when I got my master's degree. I wanted to get my master's degree because I thought when I meet my biological mother, I just want to show her what I was able to achieve. You know, it's not that important. You don't have to have whatever the world considers success or achievement, but it was important for me. I just wanted to reach that milestone. So when I shared in that commissioning service how I came to be, oh my gosh, people were crying. People came up to me like, wow, you need to share that. You need to share that. And as a designer, God has given me the ability. In fact, everything you see from the Radiance Foundation, I create all of that. It saves us a ton of money. I create all of it. I love it. I am so thankful to God for the abilities and talents that he's given me to be able to take my story and make that visual. So when I shared that, I was invited then to speak at a huge gathering in DC of about 400,000 people. It was called the Call DC in 2000. One of the most incredible events. Of course, I could barely get a word out. I was crying my eyes out, and I was supposed to sing a song. I don't know if any of you are singers, but when you're crying and you've got, the whole sinus thing going on, it was not a beautiful song, at least, the tonal quality of it. But I just remember I must have spoken to 200 people afterward who shared their stories with me over and over again. It's amazing what stories can do. And so when I talk about how every single human life is possibility, I was so honored to work with Real Options Pregnancy Medical Clinics in California and with Bethany Christian Services. We created an ad campaign called Turn the Unplanned into a Loving Plan, advocating for open adoption. Adoption has so many more options today. But through that, we also created content talking about this issue of overpopulation. Because if you want to, of course you want to get rid of those who are born as a result of rape. I mean, that's just a given for mainstream culture. But that's not where they end. This person, that person, where we're overpopulated, right? Although you could fit everybody on this wonderful globe on the land area in Alaska. So much for overpopulation. We don't have an overpopulation problem. We have a perception problem. The way that we perceive our humanity. And so one of the ads that came out of this effort to turn the unplanned into a loving plan was this. I mean, you saw the news reports, 7 billionth person born. Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? I don't know, how about love them? So this is called 1 in 7 billion.
You never know what the future might be. That's the beauty of possibility. Every human life, so irreplaceable. I can't imagine life without you. It's just unthinkable. There's no one like you. No one like you.
Thank you, Oregon Right to Life. Thank you, Liberty and the crew. God bless you all.